We're so focused sometimes on making it a wow moment and going over the top and making it exceptional that we're sometimes under delivering and creating these POW moments, right? Disney, of course, is the end all be all of guest service, right? Everyone always compares to Disney, and he had the concept of called plussing. Customer service is so important from all these high level touch points that we offer in the offices. We have our front of house, we have our conference services, food and beverage, janitorial, security, the facilities technicians too.
Hi everyone, it's a very special episode of Heroes of Hybrid Work because, well, first, we have an awesome guest, Jessica Kane, and second, we are rebranding the pod to the Heroes of Modern Work. Quick note on this, the term hybrid work is becoming somewhat antiquated, as it really reminds us of a time where we were somewhat scrambling to figure out work right after the pandemic, before we had the right data, the right policies, the right leaders to guide us to getting flexible work models right. Hybrid work today is just part of this story. Today, successful organizations and managers lead with data, intentionality, technology, training, and the right communication to create great modern work experiences. Hence the rebrand. On today's pod, I'm very excited to welcome one such modern work leader, Jessica Kane. Jessica is a creative and talented workplace experience manager for the Ericsson account at Cushman Wakefield, where she's responsible for creating a workplace experience program that leverages technology, workplace design, amenities, and services to help drive employee engagement and retention at Ericsson, ensuring all the people feel productive, healthy, and happy in a frictionless workplace. I met her at a recent WorkX conference in Dallas, where she shared a compelling facilities management perspective, not yet told on this pod, the very important topic of hospitality training in the workplace. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us as a hero of modern work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Let's start easy here. Can you share a bit about your background and journey into workplace experience? What sparked your passion for the field?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I started off my career at Six Flags. I've worked at many of the different Six Flags parks, and I worked in customer service and guest relations and front of house at a very young age too. A lot of responsibility in your teens and early 20s, long hours. And eventually that led into event planning. And so I was an event planner for about 15 years through various different companies, running companies, nonprofits, corporate teams and everything. And so there's definitely a huge hospitality aspect to that. And in the process, right before the pandemic, I joined JLL as their conference and event service manager for their PepsiCo account. So I was based at the Frito-Lay offices managing their conference center and all events on site, which really sparked a whole new interest in the real estate realm of things. I was not as well aware of facilities management. You just, you came to the office and things just got done, and the janitorial team was there to take care of you, and you never thought about anyone else. And all of a sudden I'm, in this whole new realm of work where I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize this field existed. So the passion for that really grew. And then, 9 months in, pandemic hits. And so there's no one on site. There are no events. And I really had to pivot in my career as well in the pandemic of developing a workplace experience for team members to feel safe coming back to the office, knowing what's going on at the office too. All of a sudden facilities now has a face. Usually, like I said, they were kind of behind the scenes, and now people are no longer in the office, but they know somebody's there managing things and checking on things for them. And from there, I eventually transferred over to the Ericsson team as their workplace experience manager, just based on everything they did with shifting the workplace at Frito. So it's been a really interesting journey. The account's global too. So I get a lot of different experience working with our European divisions and our Asian Pacific regions too. And my team also, oversees initiatives from Canada all the way down to Latin America.
That is incredible. And I hear you when you say that facilities role was a role that was often maybe invisible before the pandemic. And today, it has a ton of pressure, the role. I think it has to span everything from high tech to high touch, right, with people. And so the role's really evolving to prioritize the workplace experience, as you said. And you really have a great perspective on this, especially on the importance of customer service in the office. So, how does customer service factor into the evolving role? Because I find this really interesting.
Yeah, so customer service is so important from all these high level touch points that we offer in the offices. We have our front of house, we have our conference services, food and beverage, janitorial, security, the facilities technicians too, right? And with all of that, though, they help with building the client or the company's brand, their culture, and also the employee experience. And so it's so important to that aspect. It's just empowering team members in the office as well, with feeling welcomed, safe, secure, in that process too. And so offering that level of customer service makes sure that the team members feel cared for when they come on site.
Yeah, and so they're used to managing the facility, and now they're really managing the community. And so, what are the foundations of customer service that facilities leaders really need to succeed today?
Yeah, so there's a lot to it, but the main key points, there's 5 of them. You want to participate fully. You want to be present in the moment. No distractions, giving them your full attention. And then you want to listen and empathize. That's our next module that we usually focus on in customer service. And that is going down to our lead model. A lot of other companies have used this in the past. So it's listen, empathize, address, or apologize, depending on which company you're with, and then direct, right? So you're really wanting to give your full focus to that team member so so they know they're being heard. And you always want to apologize as well for whatever the situation is, whether you caused it or not. They just need to know and feel that somebody is on their side, that it's a frustrating experience. No matter what your thought is on it, or if you've heard this issue multiple times that day, it is a whole fresh new experience for this person, right? Mm. And so from there, you're going to address the situation. How are we going to fix this? Give them a timeline, give them a process so they know and understand that you understood what they were saying too. Sometimes we have team members that come up and there's a long list of things that are in this jumbled explanation, and you have to figure out what's the true issue there? And then just direct on that too. Taking ownership of those situations. Sometimes we get situations that are thrown at us that aren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, but we know how to direct to the next person that will assist them. And also following up on those situations too, to make sure that our team member, the team member is being taken care of the whole way through. We also want to anticipate their needs as well. So get ahead of the situation, anticipate any questions that may come up instead of leaving it as this constant chasing of information, keeping them updated on any changes that may occur from what was originally discussed. And then the other one that I think is so important too is modeling, inspiring for our other team members too. What you could be doing could inspire somebody else, right? A lot of people have a general concept and foundation of customer service, but it's a matter of, with our team members, we're encouraging them to share best practices, because all of a sudden you'll witness somebody do something else and you're like, oh, I never thought of approaching it that way. That's a great idea. Sure. So I think it's really great to have those foundational aspects, and that's what we really train our teams on as well, to embody all of those things, which can be a lot.
Yeah. So just taking a step back, this is a shift for a facilities leader, whereas before they were just, like you said, making sure everything works right in the building. Now, we're struggling to get people back in the building. And when we get them in the building, we have to offer them a great experience so that they stick around and they want to stick around. Right. Yes. I think, actually Larry Charlip at WorkX said something to the same, he said, it's really not about saying you have a ping pong table. It's about when they get there, actually having what they want and listening to them and their needs. And I think that's a really huge shift for a facilities person to say, it's not about the building anymore. It's about making sure people are having a great experience. And obviously it's still about the building too. I didn't want to say it's not about the building anymore, but there's like this extra layer, I think, that couldn't have been anticipated before the pandemic. So you mentioned, and I may be not saying this correctly, Tracom social styles.
Yes.
Is it Tracom?
Yes, Tracom.
Okay.
So I came across that through an eCornell hospitality training program that I was in. Really interesting concept. So it's basically it's called your social styles, and it's 4 different types of communication styles. And think of it almost as a Myers-Briggs, but it's now compacted into just 4 little hubs. So you have your expressive person, you have your driver, you have your analytical, and you have your amiable person. And your expressive person is the person that their feelings are always on their sleeves. They are quick to make a decision. They just want to get it done. But also that can be seen a little much sometimes because they are so outspoken. Then you have your driver, and these are usually who you think of as your managers, your leaders. They know exactly what they want. They know how to get it. And they want it immediately. And so, which helps drive a team. You have your amiable person too, which is the person that is trying to build the rapport with everyone else around them. They want everybody's feedback. They want them to feel included. Sometimes they are a little hesitant to make their own decisions because they want to make sure that they're making the well-informed decision with everyone's opinion involved. And then you have your analytical, and these people are usually seen as the shy and quiet type. They want to get all the information first. They want to have time to process it. And so we teach this to our team members too of, hey, understand who you're interacting with, right? Is it this type of social style that they're embodying? And then how do we flip that to make them feel more comfortable in our level of customer service? We have given our team members exercises before because, of course, everybody has their main foundation of their social style. But we give them an exercise where they go out and they ask 9 different people to give a recap of like five keywords of their communication styles or who they are as a person. And you have actually 3 categories. So you ask people with a different cultural background than you ask family members, and you ask coworkers. And the point of the exercise, though, is to then cross compare how you fit in and what your social style is with those different groups. So when I've done the exercise, I came out across as amiable, and I was amiable across all 3 different groups, which that seems really great, right? Like I'm consistent, but at the same time, that's making me realize my communication blind spot of I'm not adjusting and adapting for other people. And even though amiable is about building relationships and building that rapport with team members, not everybody is needing that level of communication. So it's teaching me then to be more self-aware, identify, the nonverbal cues, the tones, the verbal cues on how do I need to adjust in my communication style and interaction with our guests, with our customers. And the same thing goes for our team members. So it's something that we've really focused on. I think it's such a great concept too, and so much easier to remember than all the other personality tests that we've done in the workplace. I'm a bear and this person's a butterfly and this is how we interact. And you're like, I can't remember, was this person an eagle? And like, you've thrown out these random objects in these personality tests sometimes.
I worked at the predictive index, so I know all about these personality styles and tests. But one thing that stands out to me the most, and something that you just said, right, is that the golden rule doesn't apply here, right? You don't want to do unto others as you would like done unto yourself, because you have a totally different behavioral profile than someone else. You want to do unto them as they want done unto them, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge takeaway, actually, and one that we haven't discussed here. And I mean, you are really digging deep into how to understand a person to be successful in the workplace. And it does seem like a different topic altogether from what we're used to.
Yeah, it's, it's a lot for our team members though, with all these different levels. So we have our foundations, but we're diving into them. And internally, our courses can be anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours with each of these modules. So we're really getting our team members to think about their interactions too. And there's so much to dissect as well. Like you're listening to people's tones, you're listening to what they're saying, you're watching their verbal cues. You're listening to their verbal cues, but you're also watching their nonverbal cues. Are they crossing their arms? Are they sighing? Also, you have to be aware of what you're doing too. Where are your emotions at? Where's your tone at? What's your body language saying right now too? That you're not conveying that you're frustrated with the situation. Like you're there and you're eager to help and you're happy, and whatever else has happened during the day doesn't matter. This is so important to me.
So
and it's a lot. It's a lot for team members to digest and process. But, when you start breaking it down and everything, it really starts to speak to them to understand what they're truly doing in the process.
So switching gears a little. So part of your approach also involves improving customer service processes with what you call process thinking. So what do you mean by that? And actually, let's just stop there. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So with process thinking, there's several different formats and groups that I've looked at for how to approach it. Disney, of course, is the end all be all of guest service, right? Everyone always compares to Disney, and he had the concept of called plussing. And so the idea behind that, was for his amusement parks. He said these were these living, breathing things compared to his animations and his movies, right? Once he went through the creative process with that, once it went out to theaters, it was done. Nothing could be done. But with the parks, it's this ever living, breathing thing that keeps growing and it keeps developing, and you can keep enhancing it and you can keep evaluating how do we keep making it better. And our office buildings are the same way too, where, out in the foliage and all these different things. So you're dissecting the different processes and the services that you're offering. And you're wanting to make sure that you're hitting every single process that makes sense, that makes it an easier and a higher level experience for your customers too. You're not just, well, this is always how we've done it, and that's it. And all of a sudden now it's becoming frustrating for the customer, the team members. It's not as efficient. A really great way of going about doing this too is another program. Tom Wujcik did a TED Talk a while back, I think in 2015. It's called Draw How to Make Toast. And so it's a great way of going into how to develop, work on process thinking with your teams. So he asked everyone in the audience to take pen and paper, draw how do you make toast, and just do all the steps, no words, nothing. And then, you can number them of, hey, this is the order that they go in, or you can do arrows. And so then everyone pulls up their sheets of paper and you compare. And we've done this with our team members too. It's not a drawing contest, but it's showing how are we all thinking about what is the process that we're doing, right? What steps are we missing? And then when we start cross comparing, everyone's picking up on different little things that are going on in the process that then all of a sudden, is this making sense? What's the full picture that we're seeing here? What is really valuable in this process? And so you can do this with he goes on to talk about, you can do this with sticky notes on all different types of things too, to enhance your services, basically. And really you can do it for any program. But I think it's just a really great concept too. And so that helps us as well with evaluating, let's go step by step. What is that journey for that team member, and how do we fix it and make it more efficient?
Yeah. I imagine that also involves people's perspectives on where the journey starts, right?
Yes.
Does it start when you buy the bread, or does it start when you're putting the bread in the toaster? I have all these ideas after you said that. And what a great way to make sure you are touching on every piece of the journey, right? To making the processes work. Yeah,
that's exactly to your point. Some people were like, okay, you go to the store and you buy the bread. And then other people are like, here's a piece of bread in the toaster. And that's it. Just one, two, done. And then other people and
maybe you missed a step where you could really, kind of my next question here, you talked about how it doesn't always have to be wow moments, but you want to avoid the POW moments? experience? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, and I'm blanking on his name. I know his last name is Ross. A speaker that we watched on YouTube during one of our trainings talks about the POW moments. And he's talking about how we're so focused sometimes on making it a wow moment and going over the top and making it exceptional that we're sometimes under delivering. And creating these POW moments, right? So he gives an example of like Toyota Auto Parts wanting to sell cookies. He's like, well, that's great, but does that actually help you sell your parts? Like, great, you're bringing people in, but also now who's going to manage this? Who's going to refresh the cookies? If you don't have cookies, are people going to be upset? But really, this is what you're focusing on. And so it's just going back and analyzing the customer feedback that you're getting and assessing, okay, what can we actually fix here to, create a consistent deliverable that we're not dropping the ball all the time, right? That we're making sure that the customers are feeling cared for, taken care of. And so, it doesn't always have to be a wow moment. It's just creating that consistency as well.
Yeah.
That they know that they can trust you and they value the work that you do too. It's building that rapport.
I think we can apply that to the employee experience too, right? It's not about having the ping pong table, right? It's about being consistent, making sure that they're having a consistent experience that brings them joy, that makes them productive, that, takes advantage of all the great benefits of getting into the office and having that in-person energy, whether it's 2 days a week or 5 days a week, right? But are you getting what you need to succeed in the office? Which that's what that kind of reminds me of.
Yeah. Keeping that consistency though, that it makes it easier for them to be more productive. They already know what they're going to expect when coming in. They know how to handle, there's not going to be all these surprises that are coming at them.
A lot of our conversation is reminding me of a quote by Krista Dodu. She's the chief facilities at the UN World Food Program, and she was a former podcast guest. She said that the facilities role has evolved from thinking just about the parts that connect the building to thinking about the feelings of safety, health, and mental wellness, which is something you mentioned earlier. What is the role of a facilities leader when it comes to team member care?
Yeah. So team member care is so important, I think, with hospitality. So already talking earlier about all the different aspects that our team members have to think of when they're delivering customer service. And that is just with that one-on-one experience, right? So it's being aware of where your team members are at. What's their stress level? What's their physical demeanor at that point? What's their emotional demeanor? And recognizing the fact that maybe they need to take a few minutes to step away. We also try to encourage our team members to recognize that as well. But sometimes we just, we all get into that mindset of, I got to push through. So we really encourage our facilities leaders to be aware and mindful of what's going on with our team members, because if they're not at their top level, they're not going to offer the best customer service. So giving them the opportunity to take a step back. Hey, go take a walk for 5 minutes, go play on your phone, or, look at a picture that makes you happy or resets you, or maybe let's have a conversation too. Let's talk about it, something that frustrated you early in the day with a customer experience. And in that conversation too, I think it's important not to talk about why we thought that customer's wrong, but talk about the situation too of, okay, so this happened. Why did this go wrong maybe? Or why was this an issue? And what can we do to make it better? So then for ourselves too, later on, when we come into that similar situation again, we already know how to handle it and we feel more confident with it instead of just feeling justified the last time thinking the other person was in the wrong no matter what, right? We're thinking about how do we keep improving that. And I think that helps refresh us too as team members offering this level of customer service of, okay, here's how I can do better. I feel empowered. I have the tools I need to move forward.
Awesome. All right, switching gears a little bit again. This is something we haven't talked about at all, but I'm really curious on your thoughts on how this is all transferable to office design. Like, how do you think about office design in this age of workplace experience? And I know I'm asking this out of the blue, but I was just thinking out loud here. We talk so much about space. All of this people experience and people management and thinking about people's feelings. How do you see this from a space perspective?
Yeah. So really good question with the fact that I think just the the team member journey and developing those spaces, right? What are the needs of our team members too in developing these spaces? I think, and we talked about this at WorkX, actually, several conversations of so many companies jumped into, hey, this is a really cool look and feel, or everybody's kind of doing this general area. Let's do it as well. But it's turning out not to be conducive to the team members' needs. And so I think it's really important in assessing what's the journey, what's helping them be productive. And of course, it's not a one size fits all for departments, for companies, and understanding their needs, what we can provide in the space that's going to make them feel productive, right? So it's assessing all of that situation as well. But on top of it too, it's not just about the supplies that are in the room that are allowing them to be productive. It's about the color design. It's about pictures. It's, the full scope of things to make them feel the lighting, the temperature, going into a little bit of neurodiversity there.
Yep, definitely.
Assessing those situations. So that just gives them a better experience, making them feel welcome coming into the office. Cool. And giving them the space that they need. I mean, that everyone got so used to their own personal offices, and then all of a sudden you come in and you want something a little bit more custom.
Right. It's true. Yeah. At SCETA, we have flexible spaces and we also have assigned spaces, and we do see the market trending in that direction. There's really two populations of employees right now. It's those with flexibility and those that don't have flexibility. So how do you make sure that you can serve both of those in a way that creates a great experience? So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up. Any future trends or predictions you see as this role continues to evolve? As
far as hospitality, though, I think that's going to keep evolving too, especially with the technology side of things as well. The back end, the AIs. I think there's going to be a full shift there too. But I think it's also important that we're going to keep the in-person aspect of it as well.
Totally.
Just to give that higher level of care. You don't feel like you're just being another number passed along through the system, when submitting work orders, requests, issues, whatnot.
Yeah, it seems like the human touch here is key. So
yes.
No matter where AI takes us, predictive maintenance and all kinds of other things, it does seem like what we're talking about here is keeping the human in the picture.
I think that's so important too with workplace experience, because when I started on this account, it was still mid-pandemic. Nobody was really back in office. All of a sudden, the last 8 months or so, we finally really returned to office at least 3 days a week.
Yep.
And things have just been picking up and moving at a faster pace now because we have that more high level touch, in-person experience going on that just makes it more helpful in the workforce too, instead of it's just been kind of a little idle in some ways with everyone working remotely. So it's nice and it's refreshing, and hopefully everyone else is feeling that way too.
Awesome. Anything you want to leave us in summary? Our facilities leaders are listening. Any last note?
Yeah. Again, hospitality, customer service is so key. I know so many were so used to being behind the scenes, and now they're at the forefront. A really great person to follow is Jeff Toyster. He does a lot of hospitality trainings. He has daily tips, and it's just quick tip for the day with like a 2-minute video. So if you don't actually have a hospitality program in place, I would utilize him just as tips and tricks for your team members to elevate that level of hospitality that you can offer in the offices and the workplace.
I love the idea of 2-minute things. That's all I can pretty much consume in my life.
Yeah, I think that's what anyone can consume now.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And then you start to build the habits. And so what a great tip. So Jeff Toyster.
Yes.
And last question, Jessica, how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Kane, Kane, -Dewulet, DWULET.
Got it. Well, what a pleasure having you on the show. What an amazing topic, not covered yet. Really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.